What is up, guys? So, I woke up this morning to find out that the Japanese playable demo for Persona 5 Scramble, or Strikers in the West, is now available on Nintendo Switch and PS4. So, I figured why not do an impressions video on it. Now, I remember when this game was announced after P5R, and my reaction was, meh. A warrior-style game about Persona 5 didn't really look impressive to me. But then we got the second trailer last year, and I was actually kind of impressed. Not only did the game look great, but it looked like a full sequel to Persona 5. However, I still kept my doubts and decided that I would wait till I actually played it before making any judgments. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now. Now, when you start the demo, right off the bat, you're thrown right into the gameplay. And oh man, the gameplay in P5S is pretty freaking awesome. It doesn't really do much to explain it though. All I know is that the screen is full of enemies that I gotta defeat. Eventually, you get a prompt for a finishing attack, and once you do that, the opening plays. Now, once this part is over, it'll be a good 20 minutes before the demo lets you experience the gameplay again, but this is where it actually starts explaining the mechanics to you. I think it's really more fair to say that Persona 5 is an action RPG with warrior-style elements rather than an actual Warriors game. Like any action game, you have your movements. You have your attacks, Y for melee, X for your gun, ZR for forward dashing or backflipping, and then you have things like combos, aerial attacks, dash attacks, standard stuff. Now, if you hold R, you'll go into this Persona mode, where time will freeze, and then you'll get a menu to choose one of your Persona's attacks and use it, just like P5. If the enemy is weak to any of your attacks, they'll be knocked down, and then if you press A on them, you'll execute this finishing attack that'll deal damage to all surrounding enemies. This also goes for critical hits, which you'll get randomly sometimes when attacking. You can also interact with the environment to do special moves, and sometimes you get special finisher moves, which is what I was talking about in the opening. But I'm not entirely sure how it works since this demo only ever lets you do it twice. But that's not all. Just like P5, there's dungeon crawling, which even has some light platforming elements and encourages exploration. Whenever you see enemies, you'll go into combat just like Persona 5's encounters. There's also item collecting, currency, and there's leveling and persona growth. In fact, you can even use multiple personas. Now, I'm not too familiar with warrior-style games, so if you're a fan of them, I would love to hear your thoughts on this game. But the short demo that I played of Persona 5 Scramble, I really had a lot of fun with it. The gameplay just all around feels great. Running around the battlefield and taking out dozens of demons at a time is just so enjoyable and really satisfying. It was a different take on the gameplay of Persona 5 with a sort of action flavor to it. It's an action game that, in some way or another, has all the mechanics that define P5. It's basically Persona 5 if it were an action RPG. There's the weakness exploitation, there's the level progression, there's the dungeon crawling, there's the wild card, and while it wasn't shown much in the demo, there seems to be a calendar and an overworld, which, based on the trailers, looks like you'll be able to mess around in that too. I've said some harsh things about Persona 5 spin-offs before, but I'm honestly really impressed with Persona 5 Scramble. Omega Force could have easily just given us another lazy Warriors game with a P5 skin, but that's not what they did. They took the source material and used it to make an experience that's fresh, while staying familiar at the same time. Now, granted, I am only going by this game's short playable demo, which will take you about an hour to beat. But half of it is just dialogue and cutscenes, which I can't comment on because it's in Japanese, so I just ended up skipping most of it. It doesn't let you do much in the overworld, and there's no Persona Fusion, so we'll have to wait for the full game to see how that turns out. The last two things I'll say is that, 1, the music is awesome, and 2, the graphics are great. I have yet to play this demo on PS4, but the Switch version does more than enough to hold itself up. From what I've heard, the biggest difference between the Switch version and the PS4 version is that this version only runs at 30 frames per second, while it runs at 60 frames per second on PS4. But if you ask me, 30 FPS for this game is just fine, and more than a fair trade for being able to play it on the go. If you want to download this demo to experience it for yourself, which I definitely think you should, you're going to need either a Japanese Nintendo account or a Japanese PlayStation Network account. On Switch, all you got to do is create an account, set your region to Japan, and then sign in on your Switch. PS4 is a little more complicated, so I'll leave it to the tutorials on Google to show you how to do that. Just keep in mind that 99% of the text in this demo is in Japanese, but whenever I was given dialogue options, I just chose the first option every time and it seemed to work. Also, when the tutorials come up, pay attention to the button prompts on them, because again, being in Japanese, it doesn't exactly explain it for English speakers. Just press whatever button is on the screen and you should be good. And that concludes my impressions on Persona 5 Scramble, or Strikers, or whatever. Be sure to let me know what you guys think if you played this demo, especially on both platforms, because I'm curious to see how the Switch version stacks up to the PS4 version. Anyways, guys, as usual, be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my links in the description, and I will see you next time.